All right, with this video, we're going to go over my background. I got to talk about the farm I grew up on through schooling into my professional career, and then the condition I had with black mold starting in 2015. Let's take a tour of the farm. So we're zooming in on the Great Lakes area. You can see Ohio and Michigan showing up. The farm is just south of the Ohio-Michigan border. It's west of Toledo in the farmland where all the land is divided up into squares. You can see the word Swanton. There's the airport to the right. Swanton's a little town of 3,600 people. That's where I grew up. So you can see the greenhouse right in the center of the screen. You have 14 acres of greenhouses there. And I grew up right here. There's a pool in this backyard of this house. A lot of the land that you're looking at now is fields that the family grew food on. And this homestead right here was the original homestead purchased by my great-grandfather in 1937, plus 92 acres. That's how the farm started. This is the original barn right here of this homestead. This is the house that my dad grew up in. Notice this sign right here. It says Schmidt Brothers Farm and Greenhouse. Here's one loading dock, and then another loading dock was built later. And you can see that there's semi-trucks backed up to it, and then large racks of flowers would be put onto the trucks. You can see in these greenhouses the color. There's red and yellow, so it's filled with flowers. Here's the extent of the fields, and some of these fields were sold and more fields were purchased, but right now it's at 600 acres. I lived in this house right here. It's a 100-year-old farmhouse with this really cool red barn that was in a T shape. Lived here with my sister for a couple of years, right after I graduated from chiropractic school. That's Lake Erie to the right, Lake Michigan to the left. This barn right here was the barn my great-grandfather purchased in 1937. And on the side of the barn, it has the sign right there that says Schmidt Brothers 1937. That same barn here, 1944, this is my grandfather with a team of horses. He's going to go out in the fields and do some plowing or something. So my grandfather's on the right, and his two brothers are to the left, Jim and Paul. So this year is 1947 when this picture was taken. So soon after 1937, my great-grandfather had a heart attack, and he survived it, but he was very ill for 5 years after that. Then he passed away. He passed away because he couldn't breathe, and I was told that he couldn't afford the oxygen, so they took the oxygen away from him. Here's the family with the great-grandmother on the far left, and then my grandfather's in the middle. He's the tall one, and then his firstborn is in front of him. That's my dad. The first tractor they purchased is a John Deere AR with steel wheels like this one. Here's Uncle Mick, or Jim. He went by Mick, on a high cycle John Deere so he can drive it through the corn. And then here's Uncle Paul in 1952. He's on an early model John Deere 40. Here's a collection of the tractors all put together. Notice in their front to the right is a John Deere crawler. That crawler is still in the family. And this picture was taken in 1959. So this is a newer photograph with my cousin John. This is not too long ago with the same crawler. And he's in front of the 7810, a very modern tractor. And right in the far right behind it is I think it's a 2955. I could be wrong on that. This is Uncle Jim on a 3020. Let's go through some trucks. They did some advertising on the sides. It was a truck farm, meaning you put produce in the back of the truck, and my grandfather would drive it to Chicago or to Detroit to the farmers markets. Chicago had big wholesale, like restaurants and grocery stores would pick up by the truckload, and in Detroit they would sell more to individual families. Here's 1949, Uncle Jim sitting in a delivery truck. Here's a picture from the 1960s, and the first three trucks from the left are semi-trucks with the silver trailer behind them, and then the next four trucks are box trucks that are painted green. All the way to the right is a white one, and that truck was the one I was leaning up against in a cabbage field in the 80s when I was a teenager, and I got shot. My neighbors were shooting target practice, and they didn't know anybody was further down the road, and they missed the target, and one of the bullets hit my boot. It did not pierce the boot, but it knocked my foot over from right to left, and I didn't know what that was. And then 10 seconds later, there's a ding, and another bullet hit that truck. And then somebody picked up a bullet, and my Uncle Paul got really mad, and he drove down there and gave him HE doubled hockey sticks. Here's two semi-tractors with their trailers in the 1970s. And that same lot, that same parking lot, here they have a potato production unit. They got potatoes in the red wagon to the right, and then the blue machine is a shaker to knock off the dirt, and then you can throw out the rotten potatoes and put them in this other cart, the other green trailer. Notice the black sign on the right. On the side of the wall of the building, it says Schmidt Brothers. There's a picture of corn and cabbage and potatoes on it. As my dad made the Toledo Blade newspaper in 1954, holding a head of lettuce. They did a whole spread on the irrigation system that the farm had at the time. And it's always been one of the few farms in Ohio that could irrigate all the acres, every single acre. This is a barn dance from 1959. These are some fun pictures. Here's a reunion in 1965. That's my father in the center. He's a tall one. His brother is to his right, to your left, sitting down in the chair with no shirt on. This is the moment everybody got a pop. They brought out a few cases of pop and they handed them out. It was a special treat back then. In the greenhouses, they grew all kinds of plants. Here's some marigolds. This picture is from the 1970s. Here's poinsettias from the 1970s. Poinsettias were always red until recently. Now there's different colors. There's blue. Some of these are spray painted with glitter or highlighted with purple. So we got yellow and pink and different colored poinsettias. In the 17 summers I worked on the farm, I never got a picture of me actually working on the farm. People didn't carry around their phones and take pictures of everything that they did. Now there's farmers, they do video of them picking corn and sweeping the barn floor, and they get millions of views. Who would have ever thought that that'd be so interesting? So no, I don't have any pictures of me on the farm. But I do have this picture where I gave a farm tour. There's my dad on the left on the cart, and I'm the tall guy, skinny, on the right. Anyways, that's the only picture I have of me on the farm. Can you believe that? So I graduated high school, and I graduated chiropractic school here. When I was in high school, I was either going to go into finance or healthcare. And I have a relative that worked at Salomon Brothers on Wall Street in the 1980s, and I could have worked there, but I decided to actually help people. My cousin was one of the vice presidents at Salomon Brothers, and he was in charge of some very big financial deals. But I made a decision at Ohio State. I was undergrad there. I made a decision to actually help people. At that time, my dad came down and he took me to dinner one night, and he offered for me to take over the farm. And I turned him down. I said, no, I'm going to go into healthcare. So I was pre-med, and then I surveyed a dozen doctors and students of medicine, and I asked them about their profession. And none of those 12 people encouraged me to go into medicine. So then I looked at optometry, podiatry, and veterinary medicine, and I wasn't interested in those. And then I spent a couple hours with a chiropractor in Swanton, and he showed me his field. He showed me what he was doing, and I could see that it was manual labor, which I was very used to. He's adjusting necks and spines, and he taught me that somebody can have a problem in their low back causing pain down the leg. So the problem's not actually in the leg, it's in the back. So you want to address the cause. He taught me that, and I was like, oh, that makes total sense. I had a pretty good holistic viewpoint from all the years I spent on the farm. You plant a seed, and you take care of it, and you watch it grow, then you harvest it. It's not instantaneous. You have to do work to it. You have to give it time, and you have to allow Mother Nature to do its work too. So same thing with healing the body. So I learned that even at a very early age. I knew that kind of concept, that holistic concept. So I decided to go to chiropractic school. I'd never even been to a chiropractor. So my first semester in chiropractic school, I had never been adjusted. So I got adjusted for the first time. I could breathe deeper after that adjustment. What I did, I went to 2 seminars a month for 2 years in school, and I learned a lot of things outside of school, including nutrition. There's one seminar in particular where I decided to be a chiropractor who focuses on nutrition. That seminar that I attended was given by a guy named Dr. Joel Wallach. He's in his 80s, he's still touring, he's still giving lectures, and he's got quite the conglomerate of various supplement companies that he's purchased. He purchased a company out of Detroit called Good Herbs that used to be owned by some friends of mine. And he purchased Suzanne Summers' supplement company. He had his own company that he started. So he's doing really well, and he's doing a great job of teaching everybody how to take care of their body. So I really appreciate Dr. Joel Wallach. He got me onto the nutrition kick. I graduated from chiropractic school in 1997, and I was in a couple offices, and in 2000 I moved to Ann Arbor, and this is my first office right here. I moved to several other offices, and about 10 years later, here's a picture of me and my staff. At this point, I had 6 employees. And the third person from the left is Carrie Craddock, and she's still with me. She's been with me for 13 years. So thank you, Carrie. I really appreciate it. You've been a wonderful help, and thank you. So notice then on this building, the walls. This building was built in 1991, and these walls are porous. And here's another view of that same building. Notice there's a building to the left, and there's 2 other buildings to the right that you can't see. In total, there's 100,000 square feet of moldy building where the sideways rain pushes the water through that porous wall. It touches the drywall. The drywall is basically paper. Within 24 hours, it's growing black mold. I was in this office for 13 years. In 2015, I started to get some symptoms. My first symptom was actually some very sensitive teeth, but in October of 2015, I got a very severe symptom, and that is pounding of the chest. Heart was pounding. So October 2015, I noticed it twice, and by Christmas time, I had it every single night. And then in January, I was having high blood pressure problems breathing, and February 3rd of 2016, it was the worst night of my life. I only slept 3 hours that night. I couldn't breathe. My blood pressure was 155/95. My feet were swollen. My body was cold. I had chest pain going down my arm and up my jaw. And I'm on my phone, laying in bed, scrolling through, should I call an ambulance? What are my symptoms? I can't be having a heart attack. I know my heart's in good shape. I've been eating low carb, no sugar for such a long time, for 17 years at that point. I'm taking all my supplements for all these years. What's happening? And I survived the night. But through January, February, I was really struggling with my health, and I thought I was going to die. But after that night, February 3rd, what I did was I went through some notes in my iPad, and I had attended a seminar 2 years earlier. And I found those notes. And those notes were put together by a guy named Dr. Tent. He's actually in the Detroit area. He's a chiropractor. He's been at this for over 30 years. And what he did in his seminar was he had these case studies of people with various heart symptoms, and he supplied them supplements, and then they got better. And he had the before and after stories. So I went through all those case studies, and I put together 5 supplements that matched what I was going through. Quivering of the heart, pain throughout the chest, difficulty breathing, etc. I started those 5 supplements. They're all from Standard Process. Within 2 days, I was better. Those supplements kept me about 80 to 85% better for the next 9 months. I still didn't know what was causing my symptoms until October of 2016. I found black mold in my office. I immediately kicked into action. I either need to leave the office or have my landlord fix it. And I started to address black mold, started to detox. But I got this concept, though, of that Standard Process fixes something other than the cause. Now, in February, when I was reading these notes from Dr. Tent and other Standard Process lecturers and speakers, they were saying that B1 deficiency can cause these symptoms that I had. And that's called beriberi. And Dr. Royal Lee from Standard Process talked about beriberi. But I studied beriberi for 1 month. I even got a historical medical book from University of Michigan Hospital or medical school, and it was all about beriberi and the history of it. And after studying that for a month, I said, "This isn't it. I don't have beriberi. It's something else." So I had to go directly to Dr. Royal Lee, and it was this book that I had for a long time. I read it 10 years earlier, but I didn't understand it back then. This time I understood it because I was having the symptoms. And in 1958, he wrote an article called Exercise and Nutrition. And in that, he describes lactic acidosis. 1/3 of this book is about lactic acidosis. Now, he had a lawsuit going on that he lost in 1961, and he saw it coming. So between 1958 and 61, he summarized 100 years of medical research from the 1850s to 1961. It's in this book. Another one of my favorite books is also from Royal Lee. It's a compilation of his newsletters that he put together between 1930 and 1950. He did one newsletter a month for those 20 plus years. You can get this book at ifnh.org, International Foundation for Nutrition and Health. And this group also has other books. So the first 6 books at the top of this pile, they're all from ifnh.org. And the rest of these books I gathered on my own. Some of these are textbooks from the 1920s and 30s that are nutrition-based and medical-based. But this is where I learned about lactic acidosis being the mechanism of chronic disease. That's what everybody talked about back then. It was forgotten after 1961. And then people started talking about causes, especially the holistic people, holistic chiropractors, etc. And mercury was discovered negatively affecting our health in the 1980s. So now we have to combine modern knowledge about causes with the old knowledge about the mechanism, put them together, and then you end up with this. So we're going to follow the physiology, fix the cause, mechanism, and then if you want to get rid of your symptoms, you got to feed the organs that are causing those symptoms. My goal has always been to use conservative, sensical nutrition to help people get better and not do the radical drugs with other poisonous side effects and surgery. I took an oath with my license to go the natural route, and I'm very thankful for that. And it's such a wide field, and there's so many tools, as opposed to in the medical field, they're so constrained to just those drugs and doing surgery. So the holistic field is such a great field to be in. I'm very thankful for it. I'm still working on the mold. I have 2 more years of it. I've been detoxing mold for 3 years. I think I have 5 years total to fix this up. And as the mold is going away, I'm very thankful for that. Things change, and I have employees that come and go, and there's information that comes and goes, and there's patients that come and go, and there's nothing that's ever stable. And you're either expanding or you're contracting. You're either getting healthy or you're losing your health. And having said that, let's take this back into the farm. Notice this picture right here. I pointed out this picture several times. And it says Schmidt Brothers Farm and Greenhouses. And all my life, I thought this was a stable thing. And I spent 17 years working on this farm, and nothing ever changed. Everything was stable. Plants grew, and you harvested them, and the flowers grew in the greenhouses, and you sold them. And the buildings stayed the same, but new greenhouses go up. The trees stayed the same. Time stood still when I worked on the farm. But now it's not that. Now it's not the same anymore, because now there's new owners. Another family bought this farm from my family. It was for sale, and now it's bought, and it's done, and it belongs to somebody else. I'm creating this video one day before the final transaction of the purchase from this other family that will use the farm and employ the same employees, but just transition from one owner to the next. So now you know my history, you know my background, and I hope this helps you understand where I'm coming from. I'm all about the free market. I'm all about education. I'm all about helping people, truly helping people. I don't hide anything. I have a big goal, and that is to bankrupt drug companies, and so far I'm unsuccessful. I have bankrupted 0 drug companies. I need to get a lot of people well. I need your help. I need a lot of doctors to do the same kind of work that I'm doing. That includes diet and supplements. And they stick with the biochemistry, get the body healthy, and then people get healthy mentally. So if people start eating a pound of meat a day, oh my gosh, the changes that people get, that I see in the way they think and the way they stand and their posture and their strength and their calmness. And nothing, I think that's the biggest therapy that people can do. And you can skip a lot of counseling and you can skip a lot of medications. Just eat a ketogenic, high protein diet and then feed your organs, and that solves a lot of problems.